Gonna keep the convo rolling for the audience. We have LED up on stage. We are gonna get rolling with the third episode of Trader Spotlight here, which I'm super excited for. Emp, are you around? I haven't heard you from for a minute. That was a great combo with the Yield Max crew, but I was seeing if
Oh
you're
yeah.
around.
Oh yeah. It's always a great conversation with the Old Max team. I just learned so much just soaking in all the knowledge from the team and then all the great questions too. It helps me grow my knowledge base here. So shout out to that. Shout out to everything going on. And boy, this Trader Spotlight show has been so much fun for me to be kind of on the asking end, the interviewing end of things, and having great traders come on and just kind of deep dive. And I know our audience has absolutely loved the first couple episodes that we've done. So I'm excited for Ellie to be here today. Ellie,
Real
are you with
quick,
us?
Ellie, I sent you that co-host if you want to grab it.
Okay.
Feel free. I sent you it.
I'm scared now. I didn't know I was gonna be asked a bunch of questions. I didn't study for this. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a professional yapper, if you already know. Okay, hold on.
We love the
That's
yap.
perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Ellie, what we do on this, we like to just kind of dive into you, your backstory, how you got into trading, the challenges you hit along the way, and then kind of your daily routine and style. That's kind of the general outline of this. So
Awesome.
I want to start off here, Ellie.
Oh, let
Just
me
kind of tell us a little
join
bit.
as co-host real quick so I don't glitch out.
Oh yeah. We don't want to. You always
Oh, that
gotta.
was
It's
quick and
always a
seamless.
crapshoot. There we go.
All
Okay.
right.
Hey, you never know. We never know. All right, we got you there. Definitely, if you're in the audience, Ellie been around the game for a long time. Definitely go in and give him a follow. Ellie, would love for just a quick background, like introduction of who you are and kind of what got you into trading, where you started. What's your backstory here?
So my backstory is, I feel like it's similar to everyone else's, but it has its kind of own twist. So I started trading in 2019, and I actually was a big. You guys know the game RuneScape? Anyone ever here play RuneScape?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I was a big RuneScape like gold farmer. So in college, I used to like mine gold and all that kind of stuff and sell it to Venezuela, and that's how I found Discord. And then I don't know, something happened where I was just like, I want to get in the stocks. Like I'm getting older now, like I got to start investing. And I found on Reddit someone talking about it's called Sapphire Trading. So this was run by Mitch Picks, who's a really good friend of mine. Shout out Mitch Picks. Ultra, a lot of those guys, and that was like the free group. Everyone used to have a free group back in the day, and yeah, so I joined in 2019, and very quickly I realized that I'm more of a large cap person. So back in the day, everyone used to trade small caps, and that's really where I made most of my money in my early careers was a small cap game. But large caps always really spoke to me, and the reason why is because at the end of the day, the only way you get rich in this world is by owning stuff. You can work a W-2 job and save up, but like at the end of the day, the only way you get rich is from owning stuff. So that's really where my journey began. So I started. For funny enough, one of my famous stories is I bought a bunch of Boeing calls right in March of 2020. So I woke up and the market halted down that day. So that was my really first super introduction to options. Granted, I do have formal experience in kind of like the big finance world and consulting and things like that. I do have a degree in finance, not that I ever use it for trading. But yeah, that's really my trading career. It took me about 18 months to become profitable, 18 months to 2 years, and the rest has been history. But yeah, I've been doing this on social media. I joined Twitter in July of 2020. And the only reason I made a Twitter account is because I had a bunch of Discord bots for Twitter notifications, and one day they broke. So I just made a Twitter account so I can have quicker notifications to my phone. And yeah, that's my social media career. Like,
Beautiful. So it's funny, like, so I got into Discord playing FIFA,
there you
and
go.
that's how I like knew what like that's such I related so much with that comment there. So you started with small caps. I feel like a lot of people did that at the time. And shout
Yeah.
out to Mitch. I love Mitch. Great guy, great trader. Take me through that first year as you were trying to figure out learning trading. What did you get early success like a lot of us had, and then get that wake up call? What did that first year, 18 months, what did that look like? And I know you were in the small caps, and then where did you change over and say, hey, I want to be more trading like the mega caps, large caps?
Sure. So always been involved in large caps. I remember when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, so I was in my frat house. okay, at my desk listening to a Tesla earnings call. And this was when Tesla was like $100 pre-split. So I've always been investing and into like large cap game, but as far as small caps, I really got lucky in the early years. Now everyone's gonna hear, oh, everyone always gets lucky in the beginning. But so what happened is I bought this penny stock called GNPX. You can look at the chart. I wonder if I could pull it up and post it. But I loaded it at like 30 cents, and I told everyone I knew to buy this stock. Granted, I had no idea what I was talking about. Literally, so my one of my best friends, his dad owns like a car dealership. I told the owners of the car dealership to buy it, everyone, and it went from like 25 cents to $6 in like a span of like 6 weeks. So suddenly I became an expert in trading. Literally had no idea what I was doing, and then gave it all back. So yeah, 2020 was super, super hot for small caps. So lots of us were trading it, but 2021 is really where I transitioned into the large cap game. And the reason I transitioned is because small caps are very seasonal. So if you don't have a big, 500, 600% runner, then there's a lack of volume because people are on vacation, cough, cough, August. You kind of limit how much money you can make. And then as you start trading larger and larger size, it's not sustainable long term. I think trading shares and options is the only really bulletproof long-term game, especially because a lot of these small caps are sketchy. So yeah, transitioned pretty much mainly in the options in 2021, and that's really how I started making my name in Sapphire. So I asked Mitch, again, shout out one of my good friends, I was like, yo, we should have like an options room. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And that's, I spent many, many hours in there 24/7 teaching options, talking about options, and it really just my entire life. And yeah, that's really what happened. And as far as success, it depends on how you quantify it. But, once it went from, paying for groceries and maybe a couple Uber Eats takeouts here and there to rent, and then, and now at this rate, like running funds, things like that, it takes a long time. But that was my early
Yep, that
careers.
that was going to be my next question. You kind of started hinting at it there. What was the path to profitability like for you? Was it? I mean,
It was
d-
miserable.
consistent. Like where did you find like actual consistency? What was the path like to get there, and what was kind of the aha moment that changed?
So for me, I mean, as far as becoming profitable is, you can look for your holy grail, right? And I'll be honest, I've done it too. It's like, oh man, if I just use this one indicator, or if I just traded this one strategy, or if I just had that, like that's the key to profitability. But that's not true. Really, what happened is it was after like a 2 week losing streak of just getting bagged over and over and over again. And I just sat down to myself and it's like, hey, you're putting all this money into this, you're doing all this, like you're spending away, time away from friends and family. Like this has to work. Like there's not really a plan B for this. Like you told everyone what you're doing, and now it's kind of, get your nuts out and do it. And that's really what happened. It wasn't anything so much at my aha moment, but the biggest thing for me was learning patience. Starting with a small account, like I would come off the open, I'd blast through all my buying power by 10 a.m. every single day. And there's probably people in the audience who identified with this. And then you look back at, let's say, lunchtime, and it's like, oh, I just missed all these setups because I didn't have enough money in my account. So then you think to yourself, like, oh, I need more and more money. In reality, that's not the issue. The issue is just knowing your setups, staying patient, and just constantly, at least for me, is telling that demon in the back of your head, like, chill out. Like, the setup's coming, like, we just need to wait for it. But yeah, I lost, stupid amounts of money, and I was relatively young when I first started, too. And, yeah, it all kind of went to shit, and then I just woke up one morning, and I remember the mental clarity I had that morning. It's like, no, we're going to trade today. We're not going to gamble. And the rest is history.
It's funny. A lot of traders, I feel like, that have gone through that. They at a certain point, and I went through this as well. At a certain point, you just get tired of doing the same things over and over, and like running your head into that wall. And you eventually say, I got to change something. I'll lock in whatever it is. Sounds like that's kind of what you went through there.
100%. Yeah, I wish I could say it was like, this magical thing I found, but in reality, it's just like I had to get my head out of my ass. I do curse sometimes, so, but yeah, just you got to get your head out of your ass. Like 99% of people know how to trade, but 99% of people don't know how to control it. They just don't. They don't have that the maturity, and that's just my philosophy on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. With that, if there's one thing you take away from this entire conversation, I that may be. I mean, we've got a lot more time left, but boy, that may be one of the best things that we're going to hear this whole time. Is 99% of people just cannot control themselves. So, tell me a little bit about when your learning process, when you are getting started. For for our audience members here that are maybe in kind of your shoes here,
Mhm.
getting going. Did you have a one? Did you have a full time job or other type of income,
Yeah.
or did you just were you still in college? And then what was the learning process like? Where did you start with? Did you start learning charts? Did you dive into like any fundamental stuff, or did you get news based? Like what was kind of your path there as you were like starting to really learn trading?
So yeah, I worked at this very large consulting firm. I'm not going to say the name of it. And funny enough, the one guy, he's big on Twitter as well. And him and this, like, basically these two guys I know, we both worked at the same firm. And that's how they quit. And I was like, all right, like I'm making money now too. Like I'm gonna quit. And that's kind of how it became full time. And now this is my entire life. Um, I heard the second part of that question. Oh, what did I do to learn? So I learn differently than most people. I've been told this my whole life. I don't know if I have like a learning disability or whatever. But I don't really I can't read very well. And like you can laugh at me, someone probably just laughed like, but I can't like sit down and read stuff. Like for whatever reason, I remember studying in school and things like that. Like it doesn't stick in my brain. So I literally, like no joke, have to draw things out and write them with pen and paper. That is the only way things will stick in my brain. So as I was reviewing my trades, I would literally just draw, like, I don't know how many people watch my YouTube videos, but like I draw the pattern by hand. Because for me, I don't know what it is. It sticks in my head. I think a lot of people like take like a screenshot and then like they don't do anything with it. Like this is more of like, we call it active learning. For anyone who ever had a private tutor growing up like I did, we used to call it active learning. So when you're drawing things and writing things out, for example, like if I took a really crappy trade, like I chased SPY at the high of day today and it pulled back at 10 a.m., like instead of just, looking at it real quick and go, oh, that's what I did wrong. Like, no, I had to sit there and write it out a bunch of times. And I call it like the layers of development. So there's like your fundamental layer of development where it's like you kind of understand what's going on. And then like you get really a lot deeper, deeper, and deeper and deeper. And I think people are afraid to go that deep within themselves when it comes to studying. And they kind of just look at things surface level. So that's really my learning process. I would screenshot it, put it in like an Excel spreadsheet, and then handwrite what I did wrong or things I missed or setups I missed. And I literally have, like, if you go to my like office like file cabinet, I just have pages of notes. And a lot of it's gibberish, but what it means to me is like I was actively learning. I think a lot of people, they look at something and then it doesn't stick. So you have to find what sticks. And yeah, I may have just admitted that I'm not the smartest person on here, but that's just the type of person I am.
No, I love that. I think, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, but knowing yourself is also one of the biggest battles as you figure out yourself as a trader, right? You have to know, how do I learn? How do I manage emotions? What triggers me? All those type of things. Do you agree with that?
100%. And it's funny, like people say like market tuition, and really I look at the market as my therapist. So you can spend all this money to go to like a really fancy shrink in whatever town you're in, or you could just trade stocks and you're going to learn a lot about yourself way quicker than all those therapy sessions. So I've learned that like I'm extremely greedy, I have zero patience, I have no tolerance for games, like things like that. And when you start losing thousands and thousands of dollars, you're going to learn those lessons a lot quicker than any therapist will ever tell you. But yeah, you have to know yourself. And it's not only knowing yourself, is you have to be comfortable with who you are. So I'll tell you guys. So I'm 29, and it's funny. The older I get, the more and more like happy I am, because I'm very comfortable with who I am. And if you don't like me, or I don't like you, like it's all good. Like we just don't have to talk. But I think especially more so for the younger guys, like when you're young, like you're really trying to like find out who you are. So it's almost like time in the market, but also just maturing as you get older. Like I feel way different now and happier than when I was 21. Like when I was 21, all I cared about is what club am I going to and what kind of shenanigans can I get into. Now it's like, I might make some wagyu today. I had a pretty good day. So, but yeah, I would definitely 100% agree with that. You have to know yourself. And actually know yourself. What makes you tick? What makes you kind of anxious, stressed? You have to know all those kind of trigger points.
Right. And I always ask everyone this as you got going and you started to hit a stride, almost everyone hits a bump at some point and maybe doesn't blow up an account, but usually has a rough time. Did that happen to
Oh
you?
yeah.
And if so, yeah. So, but which one of those points that kind of stuck out to you? And what was the like? Okay, this is what I'm doing wrong. This is the change I have to make. Was it go back to studying harder? Did you get overconfident? What was kind of the challenge there, and how did you overcome it?
Let me think. Okay, so there's this philosophy I have where trading is a lot like video games. So for those who don't know, I play a shit ton of video games, and I remember this guy, Jordan. No, do you remember FS Trades, Jordan? Remember him? I don't know if he's here right now, but there's this guy FS Trades, and he used to say it's like in order to have your first $1,000 green day, you got to lose $1,000 in one day. Your first 10K day, you got to lose 10K, and there's like almost tiers to it. And what you don't realize is what when I say that, what I mean by that is there's different levels of emotional control. The more zeros you add. And so there is this time where I discovered a very hard lesson about 0-day SPX and CHOP. And I blasted through around $20,000, maybe up to $30,000, but in that range, blasted away on SPX contracts. And I mean full mega tilt rage. And I remember at the end of the day, the end of the trading day, like I didn't eat, I was cracked out. I looked like a grandma smoking cigs at the casino. Like that's literally what I looked like eyes all bloodshot. And I just remember laughing to myself. And I'm like, I definitely know better than this. But then what happens is, you go to the gym, get your pump in, and you still feel sad inside. And then reality hits you right before you're about to go to bed. It's like, holy shit, I just blasted away $20,000. Now, I get DMs all the time. I average about 50 to 100 DMs a day right now. And people say, the first thing they say to me is, I lost X amount of dollars. How do I get it back? Those people will not get a response from me. Why? Because you have to accept it. You have to accept, for me, right? I had to accept that I'm a degenerate gambler and I pissed away all that money away. That's it. If you don't accept it, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the stages of grief, right? Denial, anger, and then last stage is acceptance. A lot of people find themselves stuck, like, oh, I took this fruit alert, that's why I lost this money, and they're all angry about it. But no, you have to accept it. So I sat down, took the rest of the week off. I'm like, I know trading tomorrow, I'm just gonna piss away more money because I'm not dialed. When you come to your desk, you want to be dialed and calm. And I sat down with myself, and what I did, okay, here's all my green weeks, here's all my red weeks. What do I need to make per week to make this loss back like it never happened? And I sat there and I was like, this would probably take me like 2 or 3 months. It's like, okay, that's a challenge to myself. Can I stay disciplined? Can I earn the right to keep my seat at the table in the stock market? So yeah, I blew a bunch of money in CHOP. The TLDR is I just made it all back because most people are too afraid to even try. But you just got to look at your data, look at your numbers and be like, I got this, and then size down a little bit. But yeah, I pissed away. I'll never forget that. That was like the worst day of my life, dude. I'll never forget that.
Everyone, I feel like everyone has at least one or two of those stories. So one thing that a lot of people struggle with is after that big loss, they want to try to make it all back at once. That's where things spiral, and even if it's a small loss can tilt real fast.
Oh yeah.
When you talk, it sounded like you said you just created a roadmap. That's one of the first times I've heard something like that. I actually really like that. So you take a big loss and you don't say, okay, I need to make it all back next week or in 2 weeks. You actually structured it out and said, hey, if I can just consistently make this much per week, I'll be back to where I was.
100%. Yeah. And I always say, like, so when you come back from a big loss, the lessons you will learn on the bounce back are going to teach you more than anything you can imagine in your life. When I bounced back from that, I felt like, I remember the day I made it all back. I remember sitting there and I'm like, wait a second, what did I learn? I learned patience, the correct setups, daily setups, proper trend riding, like all of these lessons that I learned. And I was like, that is never going to happen to me again. And you just run it up. It's almost like, you want to compare it to college. It's like your course curriculum. What areas do you need to work on while you make this back? And I think the worst thing you can do is, well, I need to make this money back right now. It's like, cool. Any money you put in there, call it zero. You're just not going to happen. But you space it out over a couple of weeks. It gives yourself tangible goals. Instead of thinking of, for example, right, I lost $100,000. I got to make 100K. Why not start with 1K? in your mind, it's going to seem more achievable. It's almost like I don't know how many of you watched. It's like a podcast called The Financial Audit, and like he like goes over people's finances, and people have like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and you just chip away at it slowly, slowly, and slowly. But what that does is it also builds better habits, better trading habits, and then you just run it up. It sounds a lot simpler than it is because you're gonna have bumps in that, but you can't put a price on the learning lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I hope the audience is taking notes on this. I see a lot of comments down here below the space. So, Ellie, once again, appreciate your time. We're going to keep going here.
Of course.
I want to ask a little bit about you talked about the psychology side of stuff, you talked about the reviewing side of stuff. So, I want to hit both of those points here. First off, when you've talked a lot about the studying, what is your process? You said you've drawn out some patterns and stuff, but what is just your overall process? Do you go back and review every trade that you make? Do you do study sessions? Like, how much of your trading are you actually going back and reviewing yourself?
Oh, everything. Oh no, that's the thing you don't understand is that people think, oh, like I'm gonna trade because I want to, you know, be free for the 9 to 5. Well, yeah, any literally six-figure trader is grinding at night. You know why I know? Because I know most of them, and we're texting each other about setups. Like, you have to like. So, for example, my study session, right? So, the workday ends, we'll call it normally at like lunchtime. Sometimes I stick around, and then what trades did I take today? How can I better optimize? There's no way I'm going to top tick and bottom things perfectly to the penny. There's always room for optimization. I also want to get a sense for what was the overall market doing. For example, if we look at today, right, I was a long AMD and long Apple, but the market printed a failed breakout. So when I studied tonight, hey, where's the shorts that I missed? I should have been short today. Why was I jamming the longs? And then you look at Robinhood, I mean, you would have made 300% of those puts. So it's not only what I traded and how my performance was there, it's the trades I missed. That is, to me, I think is the key, is the trades that you missed, because everything in the stock market repeats itself. This is going to happen again, so that way you're ready to rock and roll. And that's really it. So I spend probably, 2 hours a night. I made the joke the other day. Like, people are always asking me, like, yo, Ellie, like, why are you on your phone? Like, I'm looking at charts. It doesn't matter if it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Like, I'm always have a pulse on what's going on. 90% of my job is just scanning for setups.
So I'm gonna dig into some of your strategy stuff here in
Sure.
just a second. But right before that, what one thing that you just said that triggered a thought in my head is how much time, because I feel like a lot of traders go through, maybe they are willing to grind, right? And spend time on the charts, but I feel like a lot of them are going through charts looking for setups. It sounds like you probably spend as much time looking back at trades and stuff that you missed than you even look at setups. What's the balance there? Are you are 50-50, 60-40?
It really
Where are you at
depends.
on looking back versus like how much are you grinding looking for the next day setup versus looking back at your actual review?
I feel like I want to put this at 50-50 because nothing. So the whole market's run by algorithms, right? And what data are we feeding these algorithms? Are we feeding them future data that's invisible and doesn't exist? No. So what are we doing? We're feeding them past historic data. So I always look like, hey, the last time that Tesla broke out of, I'll pull it up on my screen now. The last time Tesla broke out of this pattern, okay, and this is how it was set up. How long did the breakout last? Was there a day three move on it? Did it go up in a row 4 or 5 days? It's almost getting the personality of the stock. And that's really what most of my job is. At the same time, though, I tie it back. Like, I almost do like a link it back to what's happening now and how does it compare. Because you'll notice over time when these things happen, it's constantly repeatable. And I want to see, how did it move off the open? Did it make a huge violent, like Apple today? Apple printed a huge kind of ugly 10-minute candle. That's fine, don't care. But then it reclaims the levels and boom, rips the highs. So I want to see, like, is this because this has happened before? Is this new? So yeah, I'd put it at 50-50 unless my performance is really piss poor. Like, if I'm getting trashed every day, then it's going to be like 90-10. But recently, it's been a pretty easy market to trade. I normally take off August, but I was like, I'm gonna stay around. It's been fun. So
I love that. And I'll tell you this, the audience is absolutely loving this. I'm seeing so many comments down here and retweets of the space. We appreciate all of that. Uh, Ellie, that's really interesting because I feel like a lot of traders spend probably 90% of their time looking for the next trade and not going back and looking at what happened today, what
Well, the next
happened,
trade doesn't
what I
doesn't
missed.
matter because if you can't execute past trades and win the next trade, it has nothing to do with it's not going to help you. Like at
I
least that's
could
the way
not
I
agree
look at
more.
it.
No, no,
Um,
I couldn't agree more.
I could be wrong. There could be some hedge fund guy listening and be like, "Dude, you're talking out your ass," but like that's what worked for. I've been doing this for 6 years. Like I don't know.
Well, that's the interesting part, though, right? As traders, there's things that work for everyone. There's something that may
Yeah,
work for you that doesn't work for me. Something that works for Jordan that works for me but doesn't work for you. Like
yeah,
there's a million ways to skin the cat, right? Is what they always say. But Ellie, this is fantastic. I want to shift a little bit here, and I want to dive in more into like your actual trading and your style. What type of trader are you? What are you normally trading? I know we mentioned a little bit about large caps earlier,
yeah.
but want to dive in a little bit deeper to that. What is the trade setups that you look for? The style of trading, is it mostly options? Is it equity? A mix of both? What day trade, swing trade? Tell me a little bit about your run of the mill. This is my A1 type of setup.
Run of the mill. Really, I'm a trend trader. So I am definitely an EMA guy. I know we're a dying breed, but I know more multimillionaires that are EMA guys than ICT guys. So I'm just gonna keep sticking with what I'm doing. So really, what I look for, right? So let's just say high level is I'm looking at what the market's doing. Is the market bullish or is it bearish? If the market's chopping, this really doesn't apply too much. Then I'm looking for individual names, and I'm mainly an options guy. However, recently I've been trading a lot more shares, just because I don't know if people talk about this on Twitter, but options, there's actually a profit ceiling you can hit before slippage really starts to ruin your day. So you have to switch to shares eventually, and you can make more money because, yeah, I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, I'm really just a trend trader, and what I'm looking for is strong momentum stocks. And that's all I'm looking for. And that's why I have to do so much scanning because I need to see what's going to happen. Like, what's the next shaker? What's the next mover? Because I'm going to be there. I mean, if you go to my feed almost every single day, I'm on the top mover of the day. And people are like, how do you know? Well, it's because at nighttime, I go through, it's like, okay, Apple's setting up a day 3 setup or a day 4 setup on a daily flag. If it breaks this level, I'm going to smack 100 contracts off the rip and they're going to go 150% as long as the market holds up. So that's what I'm looking for. I want stocks to break the range because if you don't break a range, I don't know if you guys know this, but every time you buy an option, okay, some hedge fund or like the guys that I went earlier are actually selling you the option. So the only way they get squeezed out is if a stock makes a move that's unexpected, aka the option value increases when you buy it. So that's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking. I'm a momentum trader, and if there's no momentum, then I'm gonna go touch grass. That's it. That's really what I do.
Yeah, so like tell me about that. When you say that, like I'm just gonna go touch grass.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know a lot of times the market's running and then the market's resting.
Yep.
What are you doing to just identify that?
So the way I look for it is if it's stuck between the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. So people are gonna, trash me and say that, oh, like that strategy is so overdone. Well, let me explain to you this. Okay, so the pre-market sessions between 4 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Okay, what we call market time, just to keep it consistent across all time zones. If a stock can't break the low volume high, we can call it, if you just want to call it something different, aka the pre-market session where it may only trade a million shares versus during the day it trades 8 million shares, it's likely going to ping pong within that range. It's just how markets operate. If it doesn't clear it, or up or down, it doesn't matter, it's going to get stuck there. Think of it like how many people are familiar with VPA, volume profile analysis? I think there's actually a term for it. And you have like those little bars coming off the side of the screen, and there's like a volume shelf. I think of the pre-market session like its own volume shelf, right? You have bears and bulls who are in there ping ponging, and then one person will win if it breaks down or if it breaks up. So really, that's how I'm identifying it. Next, if you want to add like another layer of the onion, so that's the first criteria. So, for example, SPY. Today's not the best example because today's a fake breakout. But if a stock is just ping ponging between this range, off my screen it goes. We call it, we make like a shotgun noise behind the barn, right? It's dead to me. I don't want to trade it. Then you can add another layer of it as I look at the actual daily candles. So if we're forming an outside day, pretty simply just means that price is either above the previous day high or below the previous day low. Now, you don't have to be an expert, but if a stock breaks the lows, it's going lower, which means the trend is bearish. If a stock breaks the highs, it means it's going higher, which means the trend is bullish. So I'm not really overcomplicating things too much, and that's all I look for. And then you can dive even deeper into like tape reading. And I also, there's certain things I do on the options chain and VIX. But at its core, I'm just following basic stock market principles that have been written about for 50 to 60 years. That's all I'm doing. I just keep it as simple as possible. A couple EMAs, a little magic here and there, and there you go.
I like that. So, do you trade the indices at all, or are you mostly
Yeah.
trading like individual
Oh yeah.
tickers?
Oh, dude, I'm a SPY 0 day degenerate. Yeah, but I don't trade them every day.
I got you.
Yeah, I have very
So,
strict criteria because with 0 days, you can turn your dollars quicker into zero. so, so yeah,
I've heard that a couple times. Yeah,
yeah,
0 days turn your premium to zero very fast.
yes, that's why they're called
Uh,
0 days. Not because of the
yeah.
expiration, because your money will be poof gone. But yeah, I do trade the indexes, but um, I found that people always say like, oh, focus on the indexes when you're a new trader, and like that's how you'll make it. And I disagree because days like today on SPY, I think are a little bit trickier than just trading like an Amazon today, which is just pretty much going vertical, or a hood, which is going down and to the right. Like I think of it like opportunity cost. Like if I'm spending my mental capacity trading SPY, and I could be making money somewhere else, I'd rather be where the easy money is. I don't want to think. Like I just want to keep things as simple as possible.
Yeah, so it sounds like you set up your day and you say, okay, what's the broad market doing? What does SPY look like going into the day? And then are you going through and saying, these tickers look good for upside, these look good for downside, and then I'm looking at the market for kind of the part of the trigger, and then also obviously the individual chart itself. Like for a hood, for example, if you look today and you say, okay, I just saw SPY gap up, kind of a failed to hold it, fell back through the pre-market levels. Hood was on my list of a potential short. Maybe I'm seeing it break down. Is that kind of your trigger process?
Yeah,
What does that part look
yeah.
like?
So I don't know how familiar you are with like programming logic or accounting logic. It's like if something happens, okay, for example, if SPY is bearish, then I'm going to short hood. If SPY is bullish, then I'm going to long, let's say, Apple. So I always have like a double criteria. That way I don't have a bias. So if I'm hyper focused where it's like Apple's going to break out today, screw what the market's doing, I'm going to enter on a shitty candle and get bagged. So I always have kind of like a dual scenario. And the way I do that is a lot of people like to do their charting at night, all right, like you're preparing for the next day. But in this market, when we gap up, gap down off of news, it really makes things really hard. So I like to wake up around like 8:30 in the morning. And like while I'm having my oatmeal, right, got to stay fit. Like I'm really looking what's moving. And the way I do that is I have a watch list of like probably like 300 tickers that are like quote unquote like options friendly. And I just look at the extended hours. For example, like if Apple's up 2% pre-market, SPY's also green pre-market, then I know Apple's one of the strongest pre-market. If this breaks the pre-market high, it's going to have relative strength for the day. It's going to go nuclear. And on the contrary, if SPY's bearish or QQQ's bearish, for example, if QQQ is gapping down, 90% chance it's because there's some sort of chip drama. So I'm going to look at the semiconductors and go, okay, well, what's the weakest semi today? Oh, maybe it's SMCI off of the dog water earnings they had because probably a Ponzi scheme. I don't know. But that's really my process. And I just do the same thing every day. And you start to get into a rhythm with it. Like there was a semi short, I think it was a day after AMD reported earnings. I hit like a nasty short on it because it broke under the daily 20 EMA. And I had my eyes on it, but it was stuck at the lows. So I had to sit there patiently, just waiting for the market to roll over to give me that extra signal to then hit it short.
Right, couple things that I got to follow up here to dig deeper into. One
Go
of
ahead. I
them,
talk a lot, so go ahead.
no, no, I love it. No, I love it. And you say things that trigger more questions in my head, and
Go. Let's do it.
this has been great. All right, so tell me this: when your daily routine, let's do that first. You mentioned that having your healthy breakfast, whatever it is. What does your day by day routine look like? And then give me a snapshot of your week as well. When you're setting up, or I mean, are you utilizing the weekends? I heard you mention you said you look at a lot of charts and stuff,
Yeah.
but when you are from when you wake up in the morning, what does your daily routine look like? Are you walking away at a certain point during the day, and are you coming back to review in the evenings? What's a day in the life for Ellie?
It's real boring. I eat the same. No, I'm just kidding. So my workday starts on Sunday. So You can, if you ask any trader and they tell you that their week starts on Monday, they probably don't make any money. I'm just gonna be honest. Like me and my boys, like we're grinding every Sunday, non-negotiable. Like it doesn't matter if like I'm out doing whatever on Sunday. Like I have to come back. I know minimum 4 to 5 hours at the screens. I have to see what's going on, what I missed, like kind of get my plan together. Because if you come in Monday morning doing zero review, you're going to make $0. It's pretty simple. So that's really how it starts. Starts on Sundays, going over the chart, getting a feel for things, really just spending time. And as far as my morning routine, I wake up probably like 8:30, head down to my office. My office is in my house. I come down, turn on my computer, and I start reading a couple news articles, see what's going on, see if there's any big movers, price upgrades. The last thing was AMD had like the tariff thing whenever it's paying money to the government. So I just note down all of those things. And then I pick my top like 5 or 6 setups and they go on my main screen. So I have four screens. And I go on my main screen. Then I normally leave at like 9 a.m. Just go for a walk, clear my head, making sure. The biggest thing is don't bring any of your emotional trauma and baggage to the screens because the market doesn't care how you feel that day. Trust me, it does not care. Make sure we come with a clear head, phone on silence mode, and then we're locked in. I think the stressful part about trading, at least for me, is maintaining that focus for a long duration. Like when markets open, when I used to trade live all the time, this would be the thing. Like I'm silent because there's so much going on. I'm like a computer, like analyzing everything. And then as far as cutoff time each day, it depends, right? So if we're getting a lot of midday reversals, I won't even come for the morning session. Like I'll just dip and come back at like 10:30 or 11 and catch that kind of lunchtime midday reversal. But normally after 1 o'clock, like I'm not trading. I really don't like trading the afternoon session unless there's news. So I'll put up like Bazinga or something in an earbud while I like walk around and do stuff. Like for example, like when Tesla and when Elon or Trump are beefing that one day, like I had an earbud in. I was literally at the grocery store just hammering as many puts as I could on the floor. I looked probably like I was doing drugs, but like I got to make money. Bills are due no matter what. So, and yeah, that's really it. And then, I'll go make lunch. And if I don't go to the gym during the day, then I'll, just scan charts in the afternoon, just catch up some like admin stuff, make videos, hang out. And then I go to the gym. And then after that, just play video games for like an hour or two and hit the charts again. It's nonstop.
So it's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. I want to warn people, like if you want to do this, like you got to commit. Another good friend of mine is Real Simple Ariel. I'm sure you guys know who he is. And that dude grinds like 70 to 80 hours a week on the charts. And he also turned 30K into like 20 million. So if you want to do that, time to lock in. Like it's just not like trade for an hour and you're like, no, dude, it doesn't exist. You're not, we used to say NGMI, like you're not going to make it.
Is the biggest myth in trading that you're quitting a 9 to 5 for freedom of time?
Yeah, it's more so freedom from a boss who nags the shit out of you. It's more than that, but
There
I'll
you
tell you
go.
right now, yeah, like your boss is not gonna ask you like, yo, when's this due? Like, no,
All right,
it's
so
just your own demons.
I'm going to ask you a question for somebody that maybe they are, newer to this, or maybe they've been in it for a year or two. They are still working that job.
Yeah.
How can they balance that? And if you don't really have the perspective on that, no problem. But I'm just curious.
No,
Like
no,
I'm
I
sure
balanced it for a
people
long
have.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure people like not only have you probably balanced it, I know a lot of us have, but I know you work with a lot of traders and teaching trading as well. So what do you tell those people that are, hey, I have a 9 to 5, I can check things during lunch. Maybe do you tell them, hey, look for swing setups? Like what's kind of the advice to somebody that is still working that full-time job? And at what point should they consider maybe walking away and trying this full time? And I'm curious what your answer is going to be on that piece too.
I can answer that one. It's when your side hobby becomes when your side hustle becomes your main hustle and your main hustle becomes your side hustle. That's when you flip the switch. So I remember for many like almost like probably like a year, I was like doing like, oh, like do I just jam all in and do what I'm supposed to do? And I remember it's like someone said that to me. He's like, dude, your side hustle is now your main hustle. Like, dude, the way the math works, like you got to do it. I remember he said that to me. Shout out my buddy, and I was like, okay, that's it. And then as far as, having other responsibilities, like, look, like I also have a life, okay? Like I have a lot of obligations. I run multiple businesses. Like I literally nonstop working. And again, I still have family to take care of and things like that. So it's not like, 60 hours like typing away at your keyboard like you would if you worked at like an accounting firm. You have balance. Like you're able to do what you want to do. And as far as like, if you're in an office job or whatever, and you can't spend time looking at the screens, that's tough. But I'm going to give you two tips. Number one, don't trade 0 days, okay? Because you can't pay attention to the screens. Stop trading SPY. Stop trading futures. It's not for you. You have to adapt your strategy. Step two, trade shares. You can make a metric crap ton, keep PG-13, load of money trading shares, swing trading, and investing off of very simple, repeatable daily setups. And with shares, you can put in like a trailing stop loss. You don't have to worry about the Greeks or anything like that. So I think that's why I kind of got lucky when it came to small caps, where it was all shares. We didn't really have that much options. I've been trading options for so long that we didn't even have 0 days. Like they used to only be on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays. So that would be my tip. And then the big question, especially when traders come to me for help, is they have young kids that are busy and they keep them busy. I'm like, well, you can always bring like an iPad and things like that while they're at practice. Like you don't have to, like you can still be a parent. Like I want people to take care of their kids. Like when I have kiddos, I'm going to be at everything. I don't care. But you can find balance. It's not so much as like you don't have like a quarter end deadline like it's a job. It's more so like the more prepared you are, the more money you're going to make, the more you're going to help your family. So you need to find that balance.
Absolutely. I love that piece, especially about the families.
Yeah.
I want to dig in to the option side of things a little bit. When you are trading, and I know you mentioned you look at the option chain and stuff. What does strike selection look like for you? Are you taking normally weeklies, like if you're trading Apple or Hood today? Are you taking weeklies? Are you going out a few weeks? How are you in the money, out of the money, a couple strikes? What does the option
Do you
selection
want what I
process look like for
do,
you?
or should it? What
Yes.
should
What?
new
No,
traders
no, no.
do?
I want to hear your process on this. Yeah, back to your process.
Yeah, so I mainly trade weekly options. Okay, so I'm always trading Friday
All
expiration,
right.
and there's a reason for it. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, sorry, I had the phone call. I got it.
Ah, okay. I
I'm
was
back
making
now.
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I trade weekly options, okay? And there's a reason why I do it, okay? It's not because I like to gamble, and it's not because of X, Y, and Z. The reason I trade is because of I just messed up my words. Look, the liquidity on the options, okay? Because a lot of people are trading the weekly, that means that the weekly options are gonna have tighter spreads, more volume, more open interest. You name it, they're just better, especially when you start trading with size. However, I scale it. So on Monday, if I'm trading, let's say 100 contracts, on Tuesday, I might only trade 90. And as we get to Friday, my size is less and less because it accounts for the riskier, more sketchy. So yeah, I'm always trading weeklies. And what I look for is I want to find the point. Like again, think of the VPA, but it's going to be the VPA on the options chain. So if you pull up an options chain, for example, if I pull up, let's look at, I think Meta would be a good example. So I'm going to pull it up so we can talk through it live and you guys can all follow along at home. So I'm looking at Meta. All right, so I look at the options chain and I'm looking at the calls versus the puts. And what I'm doing is I want to see the volume, okay? Where is the most amount of volume today? The most amount of volume is there's almost 23,000 contracts on the 800 calls. Okay, so that tells me where, that's kind of like our point of control or our volume shelf on the options chain. So that means there was 23,000 degenerates think Meta's going to go to 800 this week. Was I part of those degenerates today? No, but yesterday I was part of those degenerates. So that's what I'm looking for, as I'm always looking at the chain. And you kind of like, with time and things like that, you can kind of spot. It's always going to be this whole dollar psych levels and things like that. So out the money, weekly options that have a ton of volume, ton of open interest on a breakout setup, you will find me in that tape. So that's what I'm looking. Now, for a new trader, I would recommend that you only trade weekly options on Mondays and Tuesdays and then trade next week's after Wednesday. That'd be my advice. And sometimes like on Fridays, I do buy next week's because they play a lot of funky market maker games on Fridays. But yep, that's how I do it. That's my strike selection. So a couple of them, a couple dollars out the money, highest volume point, and that's it.
I love that. And I was gonna lead you straight into that next piece, and you already hit it for us. So I love that you pay attention to, as the time's going by, the risk is going up because the
Yeah,
time value is less. Like that makes perfect sense, and I think that's a really good point for the audience to think about as well. Now, risk management. How are you managing these trades? Because obviously, not everyone's hitting 100% on their trades. Anybody that says they are, we know
no,
that they're
I get
just
bagged
full of
all
it,
the
right?
time.
Yeah. But it's a numbers game, right?
Yep.
How do you manage the risk? You know, if you take 100 contracts for the example that you gave earlier, how are you trimming along the way? Are you doing stops? What are you risking? How much of your account? What does that look like?
Absolutely. And actually, I just had a random thought. For anyone in the audience, if you find yourself having big days on Tuesdays and pissing all your money away on Thursdays, it's because you're not accounting for theta. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so risk management. Uh, so I have it's called a three-tiered system, right? So I enter everything in thirds. So if I'm buying, let's say, 150 contracts or 5 contracts or 15, doesn't matter. It's all split into thirds. So what do I do? So say a stock comes down to my entry signal area. Okay, I'm only gonna put a third on. Like as soon as it comes down and taps it, boom, I'm smacking my third. Why? Because if the stock decides to go, we'll say higher or lower, depending if it's bullish or bearish, if it breaks through my entry spot, then I'm only going to lose 10 to 15% on my like starters or on my first third. That way I'm not full size, and if anything goes against me, I'm not losing my full risk. So say the trade does go my way, I wait for the next candle, forming like a higher low or a lower high or blah, blah, blah. Then I add my extra third. As that candle's forming, then I slap my other one. And if you can visualize it, like close your eyes of where my average is my average is a little bit past that like midpoint of my entry. So it gives me like wiggle room. And then if it really goes against me with full sizes, I'm pretty much getting out in my quote unquote break even area. But since my average is a little bit higher, it's really only like 10 to 15%. Now, sometimes trades will stop me out. A good example is Google used to do this to me all the time. Google used to like come down to my entry point, I'd hit it, and it would just keep on dumping through. Okay, and I'd get stopped out every time. So, like I always do, is I just look left. Okay, what happened the last time this happened? Oh, I see. This is just a reclaim setup. So it comes down, breaks my entry, and then 20 minutes later it reclaims and I take it again. But the big thing that I think helped me as far as good P&L curve and everything like that is like a 2 or 3 trade rule. If a stock bags me 2 or 3 times, I'm not touching the rest of the day. Me and him, me and her don't get along. We don't like each other. We've been beefing. Like I'm just not gonna touch it. So that's really that has saved me a lot of frustration. I mean, the amount of times thinking back to my younger years where I just sit there and just be like poking a stupid stock that just wasn't moving. Like the tilt and the frustration I can vividly remember. So that's my risk management, and I don't necessarily have like set rules on like based on account size and things like that. A lot of it's kind of trader feel. Like if this is an A plus setup, the market's long, this stock's all time highs. Like okay, we're gonna jam 2-3x the size on this, and we're gonna let it rip. And yeah, that's really it. And I also scale out on a third. So it's like sell a third at the high of day, sell a third at the next high of the candle, and then the rest we're just going to trail out using a short-term moving average. And sometimes that third goes like 300%. But that 300% is going to make me, 3 to 10x what my actual initial risk was. So that's how I do it. It's all math at the end of
Yeah.
the day. It's like, if you can flip a coin and get heads more times than tails, like, just got to stick with it.
Just stick with it. I like that. And I was going to ask you about that on the scaling, and you scale out in thirds as well,
Yeah.
and then you just trail that final third. And do you set like a roadmap? Like, okay, if I'm in Meta 800 calls and Meta and it goes in the money, are you just going to keep riding those same ones? Are you going to roll out, or are you just like, hey, my trade's done here. Like, I'll just keep trailing and move on to the next setup.
So I'm a big fan of rolling, but there's something else I do called laddering, which is I would say more of like a degenerate tier of options gambling. So like for example, on Apple today, not only did I have the 232 fives, I also was loaded into 235 calls as well. So I'll ladder it, and that's how I get like really stupid gains. But the ones that are closer to the money have more size on them because they're less risky than the further out the money ones. And then a really simple strategy, especially for small account traders, is once that money, that contract clicks in the money, just wait for a clear area of consolidation, and then just add more. So, for example, if you bought the 800 calls, Sell those, you make, let's say, $500, dump $400 into some more meta YOLOs, and if they go even higher, you're literally tripling and doubling your house money. Because remember, the money is not yours until you press withdraw on your account. Okay, people say, like, it just drives me nuts with futures trading. I'm up 15 bands a day. I'm like, no, you're not. Where's it in the bank? Like, no. Like, stuff drives me nuts. But it does not real money. Like, even if I hit, like, say I make $20,000 in a day on option trade, it doesn't mean anything until I hit withdrawal and it goes to my bank account. So that's what people need to understand. It's really just a video game until you owe taxes. So
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that perspective on the withdrawing thing. I want to ask you about.
sure.
You mentioned EMAs earlier. What are your go-to indicators? What are your I mean, probably your main setup. What indicators are you using? And tell me what your favorite EMA is on top of that,
Favorite
or
EMA.
EMAs plural.
Yeah, so I use a 820-200 system. So how does that work? Okay, so the 8 EMA is my short-term moving average. Okay, very simple. I mean, some people use the 10, some people use the 13, the 5, right? I just use the 8. It doesn't really matter what EMA you use. You just need a short term, medium term, and a long term. That is it. So that's what I use it. I use it on a 10-minute chart, sometimes a 3-minute chart, but that's more for tape reading and requires a little bit more technical know-how. And then a 20 EMA. So everyone either uses like a 9 and 21 or not, 9 and 20. It doesn't matter. All of it is the blue line on my chart. And for me, it tells me what is the medium-ish term trend. Okay, so I know, for example, if it breaks the 8 EMA, it's going to go down to the 20 EMA or the 21 EMA. If it breaks the 20 EMA, it's going to go to the 50. I only use the 50 on the daily. And then lastly, the 200. The 200 is kind of like my last line in the sand. And that's really it. If I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be the 8, just because I probably made the most money off of it. And people hate and say the EMAs don't work, and you need to I'm like, I've been using the same indicators for 6 years. But indicators don't mean anything if you don't understand the why behind something's moving. So I think that's why people don't like them as much. But yeah, 8, 20, 200, short term, medium term, long term.
Absolutely. Are there any other indicators? You mentioned like the volume profile stuff. Are
No,
there
I just
anything
know a lot
else
of
that
people
you
use
really
it.
use?
I use
Oh, okay.
VWAP, but only for trading reversals. So like for example, today if you look at SPY on like a 10-minute chart, we broke VWAP at like 1010, and that to me signals row. This is probably going to go down into the and fill the overnight gap. But yeah, I'm not like I don't really care what the indicators like are doing. Like it's hard to explain. Like not everything is dependent on them. I just use them as a nice visual guide. We used to challenge each other in like 2020 where we'd only trade SPY using VWAP. Like that was the thing. Like we were like, oh, we don't need indicators. Like we're better than that. But it's not about the indicators. It's about the why behind the setup. At least for
That's
me.
that's interesting. That sounds like a fun time right there.
Yeah, we'd only
Like a little
trade
challenge.
SPY contracts using VWAP. Like it was like, dude, me and my buddies back in the day were just so dumb.
And then, I mean, but it makes sense, especially as a trend trader to have
Yeah.
EMAs on there. I mean, the visual and if you watch it enough, like the time on the charts, you watch it enough, you can predict like, okay, if it bounces right here and takes off, like the EMA is actually going to touch, and like you can
Yeah.
almost like predict what it's going to look like in the
And also
future too, right?
the angle of the so one thing that I'll probably never mention publicly other than here is like if you actually look at the angle, like the curve of the EMA and where it is, you can determine like the likelihood of it actually coming up and hitting it or going a little bit below her, so you can even get like better entries and things like that. But yeah, I'm an EMA guy. I stand by it. Like I know like my ICT concepts and things like that, but like that stuff's so complicated for no reason. So I just follow stocks that are breaking out, breaking down, and I buy calls and puts. And I just ride it because I don't know. Like here's one thing that I think new traders need to understand is I don't know how high a stock's gonna go. Jordan doesn't know how high a stock's gonna go. He doesn't know how low it's gonna go. I don't know how low it's gonna go. No one knows. So what can you use in order to tell you when to get out? If the stock's at all-time highs, what can you use? The only thing you can use is the candles in front of your face. So you can either CBC it like Maple Stacks or use a short-term moving average. That is it. It's just how stocks are designed. So that's one thing that I wish someone told me. I always thought I could be able to predict the exact tops and bottoms, and then it cost me like another 10K. So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, there was another lesson learned there.
Yeah.
It's funny how fast when you start losing money, it's funny how fast you start learning some lessons there. It's
Of
funny you
course.
mentioned Maple Sacks because he trades with us every morning on this show,
I've
and
known him for
uh,
5 years. He's a good guy, man. And I like him. I don't. I hate talking about other people, but I like him a lot. So that's why I like him because he's always been cool. Like that's the thing. He's always been a cool guy. Like he's never changed
cool
once.
cucumber.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we love Maple, and the reason why I thought of him before you even mentioned him was you mentioned use a 10-minute chart, and he's
yes,
big on 10 and 2, right?
yep,
Or sometimes the 10 and 3, and it sounds like you're very similar
hundred
in the
percent.
style there. You look at the 10-minute, you look at a 3-minute chart. Is that kind of where you just live throughout the day?
I so I use a 3, a 10, and a 30 minute. So a lot of like if you ever see me post like big stupid gains, it's because of it's a 30 minute setup. But really, so the way it is like 10 minute is like candle formation. Again, 10 minute will force patience on you like nothing else. But the 3 minute, for me at least, is more like a tape reading, like seeing what's kind of happening within the candles, like what's the story there, and that's how I use it for that. And then the 30 minutes overall big picture trend. And if a 30-minute candle keeps making higher highs, meaning it's breaking the range up, 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 and up, that means that if this thing's gonna fly. And same thing if you look at like a 30-minute on SPY today, we did not print a single green 30-minute candle other than the open. So it just gives me a better visual. And yeah, that's how I do it. But I think Maple Stacks is smarter than me, to be honest. So he knows more about like he does like the liquidity sweeps and all that. Like that's just I never really got into that. I like the big trenders. That's just where I hang out. You gotta know what you're good at to make it in this game.
Yeah, that I mean that's super important. I feel like a lot of new traders they start bouncing around to 27 different styles and they start adding in too much stuff and it's actually refreshing to hear someone that says, "Hey, I know myself. I know it works for
Yeah,
me and here's the three or four things." I mean, I'm not saying it's simple how you trade, but the way you just presented it sounds like, "Hey, this is pretty straightforward and it's easy to follow and not overcomplicate," which I do think is very important.
yeah. You don't want to get into the weeds of things. Yeah, because I have a tendency to do that. Like, let me look at the macro data in Japan. Like, I hate to break it to you, but that's not going to affect if my AMD call is going to money or not. And if you're reading that, like, cool. I'm really happy for you, but you don't run a hedge fund, so I don't like it. It doesn't do anything for you. I'm very practical and no nonsense to my trading. Um, like that's just how I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ellie, what this hour flew by, and you're one of those guys I could sit down and talk to forever. You're welcome to hang out with us a little bit longer,
Sure.
but I do want to be respectful of your time, of course. I want to ask you this: where can people find you? I know there's a YouTube link. You mentioned your YouTube
Yeah.
earlier. It's right on the page, so I definitely go and make sure you're following Ellie first off. And if you look right up there on the top of his page, you'll see that YouTube link. But if people want to follow you closer, check out your content, where can they find you at? I mean,
Best place
do
is
you
you
do
can always
teaching, all of that?
yeah, so everything I posted for free on YouTube, I made a pact to myself that I'm gonna teach everything I know for free on YouTube, and it'll kind of be like I'm gonna look back at it in 10 years and be like, oh wow, like that was pretty cool. I did that. So yeah, it's actually my YouTube name is at Make Money Trading Options. So shout out that domain steal right there. And then yeah, X is the best place. I'm super active on here. People tag me all the time in charts and things like that, and I do my best to comment. But if you do comment something dumb that could be answered by Google, I won't answer you. So don't take offense from it. Just put it in the Google. But yeah, that's it. I can't believe it was an hour already though. This is super fun. Yeah, I can yap for days and days. But yeah, that's the best way to find me. YouTube, and then you can always DM me on X. But again, if it's a dumb question, I'm not gonna answer it. Like I'm not sending you my watch list now. Sorry. Like, make one yourself.
That's
I'll tell you how to do it, but I'm not sending it
that's
to you.
always great. Is there like do you do any like coaching, teaching, any like individual stuff or like in a
None.
group somewhere, or are you just like, "Hey, I'm on my own, but I'm putting out free content and
Yeah, just
just lending
making
a hand to help
videos.
people where I can?"
Yeah, literally making videos and helping people where I can. Really this summer my biggest focus was to become the best trader I possibly can and really put my back up against the wall. I have some number goals in my head that I want to hit from trading, and that's just where I'm focused right now. Like I love this stuff, and I love talking to people that are interested in trading. Because my daily life, like no one gives a shit about stocks. Like no one. So I really just spend most of my time talking to strangers on the internet about stocks and play Counter Strike. Like that's really all I do and hit the gym. Like that's it.
Do you ever feel like you're out with like a bunch of civilians? Like you ever like in your head or you're like
Oh yeah.
these.
I
I can't
remember.
talk to these people. I don't know how to. Not that you don't know how to relate with them, but like I can't talk stocks with these people, and that's that's what my life is. People ask you what you do for a living, and you're like, you talk to a non-stock market person, and you're just like,
Remember,
what do I even
I got
do?
recognized at the gym. I don't know if he's listening, but this young guy came up to me. He's like, "Yo, are you Ellie?" And I'm like, "How the fuck do you know it's me?" And he knew from my profile picture. And me and him were yapping for like 2 hours about stocks, and like no one other than like my immediate circle knows what I do. Like I just look like a regular dude who probably just does his thing and then goes home to his wife. I'm not married, but like that's what I look like. So like, but in reality, it's like I'm making videos all the time. I'm trading. Like I remember one time I was in the gym because I lost like it's like probably 8 or 9K. Like I am just like interquarter foam rolling, listening to Juice WRLD crying. Like just like one of those days. And like
Oh
no one
no.
knows. It's not like oh my boss yelled at me. Like nah, I literally lost your monthly paycheck because of a misclick and a platform glitch. Like please don't talk to me. But yeah, 100%. But that's why I love what you guys do and just bringing people together. The last comment I'll leave people with is like this is the best business to get into. You can like I wish I knew how much this can change your life when I first started. Like I really wish I knew, and I'm so passionate about it because like anyone can do this. Like I know a 16-year-old, okay, 16 years old, made $250,000 in 1 year trading. $250,000, 16. He trades in the back of math class. He's 16. And I know 60-year-olds who literally don't even know how to like work basic tech on their computer making millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And it's just like, where else in the world can you do that? The motherfucking stock market. That's it.
Right, Ellie, I don't know. You can't see me right now. I'm about to run straight through a wall. You got me all fired up like a high school football coach.
Dude, it's man, I got kicked off that team, but yeah, like it really is. And how bad do you want it? Like I want to, like my goal. I'll tell you my goal is I want to make $1 million trading. I'm close, very very close. But I need to make that million. Like I got to prove it to myself and my family. Like my family still doesn't believe like this whole stock market thing's a real thing. And then, we go to dinner and there's another person that's in the stocks and they're like, "Oh, you actually know what you're talking about." I'm like, "Yeah, this isn't like a joke. Like, I've been doing this for 6 years. Like, it's not like, it's not my 6th year at college." But yeah, that's really it. And there's so many good people in this space that are willing to help you if you just put in the slightest bit of interest. I mean, there's so many good people. I've actually only met one person I don't like on Twitter, and his name is ICT. That's the only person I don't like. But everyone else, like all the spaces guys, you name it, 99% of people are here to help you and just embrace it. No, this wasn't like this in 2019. Like we were all getting pumped and dumped on. So, but I'll leave it on that. If you have questions, just tag me or DM me, and I'll chat with everyone all this afternoon.
Ellie, we really appreciate you coming on. There's a bunch of stuff that people could take away. This is recorded, by the way. Every space that we do is recorded on here. So if anybody missed a portion of this with Ellie, as soon as we close out this afternoon, you can actually go back and just fast forward to this lunch hour right here. Ellie, appreciate your time. Jordan, I don't know if you wanted to say what's up or say anything on the way out here.
No, Ellie, you're the man. I unfortunately only caught like the tail end of this convo,
I
but I
fire you
know
up
it was a
though.
good one. And dude, you're amazing, brother. I know, just watching you over the years, absolutely killing it trading and just helping people with all the free content you're giving out. I love to hear you're doing a little bit of a YouTube series there. So definitely, if you're in the audience, go to that YouTube series, check that out from Ellie. I don't doubt it will be
I have
absolutely
like
amazing for you. So
hour and a half video about how to change your mindset, and it's just me with my microphone, no editing, just my raw, unfiltered
yes, those are the
thoughts.
best.
Like, yeah,
It's
I
the
had people
best
that watch it.
videos.
It's like this changed everything for me. I'm like, you know how it is in this business. Like a lot of people, they stray away from that, but I'm like, no, let's help as many people as possible. Let's make some people some money, and then the good Lord Himself will reward us some way, somehow. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but down the line, and that's just how I operate.
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. Well, phenomenal stuff. Feel free to hang out. I don't know what your timeline is. If you got
I'll hang
time,
out
feel
for a
free.
bit. I'm
We're
gonna
just
hang on
live
mute.
trading, so we're just hanging out till the close. We're gonna